please do not come to China. What are you saying, people? It's Moro. I'm from East London. I'm living out here in China. I'm teaching critical thinking and leadership, and you're watching the Blackpats. So the reason why I came out to China, I can basically say, is because the stars aligned. I graduated studying law from university and decided that before I would pay for law school, I would get some experience in the field. I worked for about a year in a high street law firm, and I would speak with a senior partner regularly. And she saw my interest for languages, and so one day she asked me what was my motive for working as a lawyer or wanting to become a barrister or solicitor. And I basically said it's because I wanted a lot of money. And she said, well, if this was 10 years ago, I would have recommended it. But nowadays there are many other ways that you can make money. So I sat back and thought, and I already knew this because I was selling things on eBay and buying the majority of my products from China. And so I thought, okay, let me change roles. So I saw an opportunity for a role in finance, working in the IT department as a software tester. And I did that for about a year and a half. And I remember I was in a meeting where they were giving out awards to different members of staff. A guy got up because he was given an award for being there for about 30 years. And I think then it was when the things just clicked in my mind and I just said, nah, I can't be there for 30 years, I can't do it. And so I decided to investigate other opportunities. I'd always wanted to travel. As I said, I had an interest in languages. I can speak Spanish and Portuguese, and I was learning Chinese at the time because I thought it would be advantageous since I was buying a lot of my products from China. Coincidentally, at the time, I was also dating someone that was Chinese that was thinking of moving back because they couldn't secure a work visa. And so all these things fell into place, and I thought, why don't I give it a go myself and move out to China? And so within about 2 months, I had all my documents ready, I had placed my visa application in, and I was ready to go. My biggest shock when moving out here was the stairs. I did some research and watched videos online on YouTube, and I read things on forums. I came here to visit for 2 weeks, but it's very different when you're actually living here day to day. The majority of the stairs are non-threatening. People here can be friendly, especially when they know that you can speak a little bit of Chinese, and they'll try and ask you where you're from and what you're doing here. And I actually live in Shenzhen, which is in the most southern part of China, and it borders Hong Kong. It's a relatively new city. The building that I actually moved into was only just built. I guess my second biggest shock would be the lack of exposure they have to the Western world. Being from the UK and living in Europe, I can honestly say we're quite well traveled. We know at least a little bit about the many different cultures that we have in the world. Some of us, or the majority of us, I would say, know at least 2 languages and can speak a number of European languages, to say the least. But it's interesting because for a lot of them, they haven't even left their country. So you can understand why they may have a very warped view of the rest of the world, especially of black people. If you're black, you're either from America and you're a basketball player, or you're from Africa and that's a very poor country. And so to a certain degree, I feel like an ambassador for our race. And I'm able to represent a little bit and shed a little bit of light on who we really are, what African culture really is, and what being from the UK is like. And so all in all, it's been a relatively positive experience. So working in China has definitely been one of the more negative parts of my experience here. I can definitely say that China has got its good things and its bad things, and no company is perfect. But there's definitely a different approach to motivating their employees. So for example, in the West, or at least in the companies that I've worked in the UK, they generally motivate their employees by giving them some sort of bonus, some sort of incentive. They might say, oh, well done for your hard work. Here's this small gift, or they might give you a raise in your salary, a percentage commission-wise, I don't know, something that motivates you to work harder. However, in China, at least from my experience, maybe because we're dependent on the companies for our visa, their way of motivating you is saying, if you don't do this well, we'll fire you. Or we gave you a raise last year, if you don't do this well, we'll take away that raise. So you can imagine that all it does is this creates an environment where everything is really tense and uncomfortable for not only them, but for us as well. We can't truly build a normal relationship with them. I wasn't expecting to come out here and be best friends and have, you know, I don't really like to mix up too much anyway, but at least a positive working environment promotes hard work and promotes efficiency. An example of this, although it may be kind of extreme, normally, at least in the UK, when you're bad or you're being disruptive, we might make you stand up or go to the back of the class, and eventually, if you're being too disruptive, we'll take you out of the classroom. So this teacher did that because a child was being too disruptive in class. And I guess for some reason, maybe due to the pressure that the kid has at home or whatever, the kid just jumped from the top floor and committed suicide. So now that teacher got fired for doing something that any of us in the same circumstance would have done. So you can kind of see why it makes it hard to plan for the future, because we honestly really don't know what can happen and how we'll be treated, and there isn't really anything to support us here. I guess in your home country you have that kind of entitlement that if you're being mistreated by an employer, you can definitely go to the law or find a lawyer that can fight your case. But here in China, if you try and argue with a Chinese company, they'll just cut your visa and then you have to leave the country anyway. So you haven't really got a leg to stand on here. As a word of advice to my brothers and sisters that are coming out here, please do not come to China if you meet the following. Number one, if you think China is going to be like your home country, please do not come to China. Just the same way that if you left America or the UK and went to another country in Europe, or if you went to some of the islands near America, things will be different. The same way China is a whole different playing field. Don't expect to be respected because of where you're from, especially for us, to be honest. They may look at you as a novelty, and it may be fun at first because you're black, and they may say, oh, you look like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, or maybe they might have heard of a rapper or two. But actually having a long-lasting or a deep friendship with them can be quite hard because we don't speak the language. So I'll definitely take that into consideration. The second thing I would say, please do not come to China if you're going to complain about everything. Just like the UK, at least I can speak for the UK, just like we have our problems and we have the things that we do well, China has their problems and the thing that they do well. The reality is this: we're guests and no one is forcing us to be here. I've seen too many people make their work environment a very negative one because they're constantly complaining about some of the small, minuscule things that don't even matter. I'm fortunate that I don't have anyone like this in my current friend circle, but I would have to say, if you're going to do that, go home. And that's the same attitude that the Chinese will have towards you as well. They're not going to be fooled at all. In their mind, it's like, if things were going so well for you in your home country, you wouldn't have come to China unless you were doing foreign trade. And lastly, please do not come to China if you're running away from problems at home. Because the only thing that you will do is you exchange the problems that you had back in the UK or back in the US for new ones here in China. For example, I love the fact that Shenzhen is a progressing city. Things are developing and they're changing all the time, but then it lacks stability. Because things are changing, you don't know if what you're doing is allowed, you don't know if what you're doing is good. One day you meet the visa requirements, the next day you may not. And not only are you unsure, but the people that are enforcing them are also unsure because they're having to learn with you because things are just always changing. I think the issue is I've seen too many people come to China and become disappointed with their move because of a serious lack of planning on their part. For example, they'll come out here without having analyzed the market, only to realize they're getting paid substantially lower than other people, and they're locked in for a year due to their contract, and they're dependent on that company for their visa. The other thing that I've seen is that people will come out here without a serious plan for the future. And so, working as an English teacher, you can easily make double, if not triple, what you would make back home if you were in a junior role in your field or working in retail, for example. But the problem here in China is that there's not that much progression. And so they'll come out here, initially be happy because they're being paid a lot, only to realize 4 or 5 years later they're now trapped into being an English teacher in China, which is not bad if that's what you want to do, but they can't return back to their field. And even if they spoke Chinese and wanted to get a job here in that field, they would need at least 5 or 6 years experience. And so really come out here if you have a plan for you to really be able to take advantage of the opportunities that are here in China. If I could give some last bits of advice to people that are looking to move out here, I would say the following. Number one, come out here with a degree of tolerance. You are a guest in their country, and you look different from everyone else that's here. Try to get some understanding before you get offended. It's very easy for us to take the minority-majority approach. If 3 or 4 people in the room are making a lot of noise, it's very easy for you to ignore the 20 or 30 people that surround you. And similarly, it's very easy for me to say, there were 4 or 5 people that were staring at me today, and ignore the fact that 300 or 400 people passed me on the train and didn't say absolutely anything. Come out here with some savings. It's very hard for you to see all the opportunities when you're in America or in the UK, But when you're on ground, you'll see there's actually a lot of jobs that are being posted regularly. So if you can come out here with a bit of savings and live off that for a little while, you'll definitely be able to find a good job for yourself. Come out here with an open mind. There are many opportunities here if you're able to see them. If you come out here with an open mind, with your eyes wide open, you're aware and you're ready, you can definitely become very successful here in China. And I hope that when you come out here, you hit me up and we see what's good. This is the Blackpats. You can find me at 91 Moro, that's NINEONEMORO. Feel free to hit me up if you have any questions about moving out to China, and I'll do my best to answer your questions as soon as possible. See you soon, hopefully you make it.